This episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast is brought to you by Ministering to Youth Conference. Imagine for a moment that you are surrounded by mountains next to a peaceful stream in the cool air of the fall. It's hard to imagine a better place. But what if that place was filled with other people who had the same mission that you do? People focused on helping the youth of today live out their faith in Christ. That place is M2Y, the Ministering to Youth Conference, located at the Mainstay Suites in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, on November 4th through the 7th. You will be surrounded by youth ministers, elders, deacons, preachers, youth volunteers, and parents that all have a common goal: ministering to youth. This year, the theme is Renew. The keynote speakers are Dan Chambers and Spencer Furby, along with several other class teachers who will be tackling subjects on mental health, technology, self-care, navigating culture, and so much more. Go to m2yconference.com to register or benandtravis.com/m2y for more information. Travis and I hope to see you there.
Welcome into the Helping Healing Humor podcast with Ben and Travis. I, for one, am fired up to have Will Myhan back on with us this time around. And, of course, Ben Hayes is with me. And so we'll just be kind of hanging in there, maybe a quasi Sons of Blunder episode, as you might can reference us in general, Sons of Blunder. But
I think that's every time that we get together. There's probably some Sons of Blunder part of it.
Yeah, but it's a highlight of my week. I'm just going to say it, right? And I like how we batch record, and we usually get 2 episodes out of something, and so we don't do it for 2 weeks. But when it's time, and we find time, it's awesome, right? I always leave encouraged. Appreciate you guys. Ben, how are you doing?
Man, I was thinking today just about how busy it is right now. It just seems like we are all going 90-0. Trunk or treats going on right now, getting ready for M2Y coming up in just a week from today, actually, as we are recording this. But as you are listening to this, it is coming up in just a couple of days. So if you're not registered, man, we hope that you jump on there. But that stuff, got back from D.C. just a couple of days ago. Kids are playing ball, all sorts of stuff. And I know I'm not the only one that's busy. Mr. Will is got all kinds of stuff going on too. So how you been doing, Will, as you haven't been able to join us for a while?
Yeah, it has been a while. Forgot how to turn the microphone on just a second ago. But been spending my weekends in Tuscaloosa with mom and dad. So it's been a lot of family stuff. So it's just been good. Things have been going really, really well. So
let's just be honest here. You're not going to Tuscaloosa to see your mom and dad.
That is correct.
You're going with your mom and dad to watch ball games. It's totally cool.
I'm the one of the family taking care of the senior citizens in Tuscaloosa is how it's going.
Good stuff. Well, we talking about a happy place for us anyways. I know there's a lot of people. Tuscaloosa is not a happy place. And for those fans, we're pretty happy about that, right? We're happy that you don't look forward to going to Tuscaloosa, but we love it. And we're going to talk a little bit about happiness and kind of discuss some things. If you're a part of our email group, and we encourage you to do that, we're about to kick off on November the 1st, which that will have already occurred when this airs. We'll be kicking off the Most Grateful Thanksgiving Ever Challenge. It's a free ebook that you get when you sign up at benandtravis.com. So we obviously encourage you to do that. And, happiness, a lot of that comes from being grateful for things. And so we're kind of entering that season as Halloween is kind of in the rear view for 2021, which is crazy to think about how quickly this year's gone. That goes into being busy. And then Thanksgiving's right around the corner. But we'd love for you to join us on that challenge. It's the 2nd year we've done it. Ben did a lot of writing, devotional writing in that book. And so we encourage you to go download it, sign up at benandtravis.com, download it from your inbox, and join us along with that. And because I mentioned the email, we put a survey in there over the last 2 weeks. And today's podcast episode subject comes from one of those surveys talking about happiness and kind of the keys to that and what happiness is. So, Ben, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I think you touched on something just a second ago. The question was just, how can you be happy in an unhappy place, kind of along with that overcoming negativity. And you touched on the fact that being part of being happy is being grateful, and it's kind of like, which one comes first? The cart or the horse, the chicken or the egg? Happiness or gratefulness. But they seem to sort of all go together or work together in a circle. So things are going well, we're grateful for them, and then being grateful for things or having the attitude of gratefulness and thanksgiving seems to also circle around to some happiness. And so generally speaking, I think obviously we named the podcast the Helping Healing Humor podcast because Travis and I have always liked to laugh at each other and at other people, and that might not be the nicest thing to say, but we've always gotten a kick out of just life in general and having a good time. Will, as well, as we've got to work with him and hang out, and so I think generally speaking, we've been some pretty happy guys through the years, but it's not been without difficulty. We have mentioned before that Travis and I, you guys have heard our stories. My wife just shared some things that we went through with our son having some issues that took us to St. Jude way back in college. Lost my girlfriend to a car accident. That was a pretty difficult time. Travis with leukemia. Will has shared some of the significant, I guess you'd say, family in law events that have happened over the last few years, and so. I don't think anybody can look and say, "Hey, you guys have just had an easy life." There's certainly, I guess we could say we've had it easier than some, but we've certainly had our difficult times too. But even through those things, I think the key is that a lot of people look at, and happiness, I guess, sometimes does seem to revolve around our externals. But I think as a Christian, and I'll let you guys speak to this, I think as a Christian, there's something that's a little deeper than just the earthly happiness that we have, or the physical things around us. I think a lot of times happiness is said that it's about our physical circumstances, but I've seen a lot of happy people even in the middle of some pretty crazy circumstances. So I'll let you guys speak to that. What in your experience, how do you see that?
I think that I've talked at length. That my typical default is I have my limit of bad news. Like I get to that point, I'm done. Like I just can't handle much anymore. But I think it's having people in your corner. Like things are difficult, things are hard. Talked about our text group before, and the ability to just say, "Hey, today's rough." Last night, in fact, texting you guys about it was a hard day, tough day, and just looking for some kind of relief. And so knowing that you've got people in your corner, there's a couple of texts from the Bible that we're going to talk about tonight. And I think that in every one of those books that we're going to talk about, and they're all writings of Paul, he mentions people who are in his corner. A lot of times he'll mention pray for so-and-so. And a lot of those people are either A, delivering the letter, B, feeding him and keeping him alive through sustenance. Because, the Romans, as far as my understanding, they didn't provide food. And so you had to have somebody on the outside bringing you stuff to sustain you. And, having those people in your corner, even in the face of, in Philippians, Paul talks about there's some people out there who preach Christ to make me look bad, but even so, Christ is preached. As long as that's the thing. But he does have that core group of people that he has in his corner that are rooting him on, and sometimes it's just simply seeing their face, whether it's on a StreamYard call for a podcast or not. To have those people in your corner, and we've interviewed people, and it's such a great reminder, like Danny Morris, Scott Kaiser. Scott and Danny both, I think, would be people you could call in the middle of the night and they would work out somehow to be there. They'd somehow help you, even in the midst of a hurricane, So it's gaining that, cloud of witnesses that are actually here on earth as well.
Yeah, I think the interesting part about the question, was the person that asked it said, how do I avoid like negativity and being unhappy? And I think part of it is we have to realize there's just going to be times where we are unhappy. I think so many times we get caught up in, oh, we're Christians, or we live in the greatest country in the world. We live in the greatest part of the country. So things always have to be great. And that's just not realistic. It's not true. And so I think, part of, what we discussed earlier, Colossians 3, Paul says, if you've been raised with Christ in verse 1, it's like, to me, there is the blessing of that. It's like, hey, if you are a part of Jesus, then seek the things above where Christ is seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things above, not on earthly things. And I think so much of avoiding the negativity has to be a mindset, because no matter where you are, there will be negativity. It's just the world that we live in. I know Travis and I are both kind of the Enneagram 7 people where, everything's just always going to be good. And maybe that's a blessing and a curse. I think about a lot of times is it's just, let's get through it. Don't worry about it. Everything will get better. You're the counselor here, Ben. And so I think that the difficult part is how do you get to that mindset? Because I think you can be happy in unhappy times, or you can be joyful is maybe the word. Like you can have some peace that's there. And that may be the true root of the question, that the person's asking is, even in the tough times, how can I still be in a good place? And I know we've talked about some things, the A plus B plus C or equals C in different scenarios that you maybe can allude to there.
Well, and I think you guys have touched on, some huge parts of that is who you surround yourself with. And I think some of the question was overcoming negativity in the workplace, as in there's other people who are negative. How do I lift myself above that? And so, having those people where, like what Travis was referring to, at the end of the day, man, I'm drained. Who are the people who are going to pick me up at the end of the day? Finding those people that I can rely on, that I can text, that I can have a good time with, and maybe feel picked back up from. But also just that mindset of, that it's okay sometimes to not be okay. It's okay to spend some time talking with God about how bad you feel, and you go, well, that doesn't sound right. Well, look at the book of Psalms.
Yeah.
How many times in the book of Psalms was it, God, this is where I'm at, and this is how I feel. And sometimes even it came out as, God, you've abandoned me. God, you're not with me. I'm hurting and I can't see you. And a lot of those Psalms would kind of end with, but I know you're there and I trust that you're going to take care of me at the end of the day. So, as you read them, it's this very real conversation that the psalmist is having, whichever one it happens to be. David, a lot of them, just saying these things that, and I'm struggling, but, in talking about it, and I find that's the case in counseling a lot of times is, clients come in and we're talking and I don't say much. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I'm like you guys, we're talking about, I just kind of like, okay, I got to fix this. But a lot of times if I can just keep my mouth shut, they'll talk their way through it and they'll feel better when they leave, and I've just listened. And I think that's what God provides for us, is someone to listen to us, and the church provides that, or our friendships provide that. And so I think a lot of it is just simply, if we can express it, the more we hold things in, the more they bottle up, and I get frustrated and I get angry and I get discontent. But if I can find some healthy outlets for talking about it, working it out, praying about it, journaling it, something that can help, me get it out so that I'm not, you shake that Coke bottle up, it's going to blow up at some point, and you get enough of that negativity, then eventually that's going to flow out of you. So,
or it's going to go flat.
yeah, you're going to burn out, as we use the term, whatever burnout means. But, a lot of people just get frustrated and like, I'm done with ministry, I'm done with schoolwork, I'm done with whatever, because I've just been going at it too long.
And I think something that comes along with maturity is the ability to decipher constructive criticism versus negativity. And constructive criticism, I don't think is the same thing as negativity. I think it working through something or having someone help you work through something, and sometimes it's constructive criticism. Sometimes there's people just going to be brutal with you. I've come to find out that those are some of my favorite people. I've got a lot of people in my life who are brutally honest with you, but I'm that thick sometimes. Sometimes I need that. But, I know that they care because they're not going to let it go on. They're going to confront it. And, that's the Christian thing to do. And I think so, to kind of shift from the constructive criticism to negativity and kind of how to control that. I think that we are inundated, there's a big word, with information. Like, we have more information than we've ever had at our fingertips. But we also have a lot of control of what we get notified about. I mean, just about everything, right? This podcast, you can get notified when we post a podcast, which you should subscribe. Just to throw that out there. You can get dinged when we put a YouTube video on, and there are people out there who are subscribed to everything we've got. And man, I don't understand that, but boy, are you our favorite people.
I love you.
But you can control those things. So even on a practical level, control what you're getting dinged. I mean, you can go in on your phone and the settings and control what you get notified of. Ben, when we were growing up, if I had a bully, I had to survive from 8 to 3.
Yeah.
And then I went home and I was done. There was no internet. There was no social media where somebody could reach me and keep hounding me. Mm-hmm. And so here's the chief of sinners and the biggest hypocrite in the world. Turn the phone off, But at the very least, control what you get notified. And the other thing to that, I always kind of approach it this way. The world's going to hit its quota of negativity without you ever being a part of it. So don't be. Know your limits, control your notifications, and just kind of choose. There is a difference between constructive criticism and negativity. And we can be negative in our own minds. And once again, I'll let the counselor speak to that. We can have voices in our head that never let us rest. And that's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, and piggybacking off of that, not just what we see on our phones, but I've learned, and I don't always do this perfectly, but there's a few people who I'm fairly certain are going to give me a negative comment every now and then. There's just some people I know when I see them coming. And what I have learned, like you said, there's some of my favorite people. But what I've learned is their negative comments are less about me and more about their state of being or where they're at. Mm-hmm. And so as I've learned that, I think a lot of times the negativity of others, overcomes us or wears on us because we accept it in. I've done this little thing with people where I wad up a piece of trash and I throw it at them and I say, throw that away for me. And so they throw it away. And I get on to them, like, why'd you throw that away for me? So I throw them another piece and they throw it away and I get on to them. And I do it until, they're confused. Like, well, you gave me this trash to throw away. And I said, whose trash was it? It's not your trash. It's my trash. So don't take on my trash and do something with it. And so they feel like, hey, I can say this, but I try not to take it with me. Like, hey, I heard you. Thanks for sharing that.
I think we've unpacked a little of that Romans 12, 1 and 2. It's a transforming of your mind. It's controlling your thoughts, control the controllables. If I can quote the guy you're wearing the T-shirt for, Mr. Jones, control the controllables. So I think Romans 12 there is a pretty good little deal of transforming your mind. So
I think it's interesting too. Every time I hop on a plane, I always get kind of reset. And I realize how insignificant and how small I really am.
Yeah.
Because it's like you're flying over this vast world and you're seeing all these things and you go, wow, like I take up a very small space in this entire place. And every time I step back and really realize, okay, how small and insignificant I am in the major world. It's like whatever happens in DC does not change my small little life in Muscle Shoals, Alabama.
Yeah.
Or I'm not going to allow that to happen. And I think in some ways, maybe that's how I feel like I'm a pretty carefree, easygoing guy. And some of that has just come from, okay, there's a lot of things going on in the world that do not affect me. There's things that go on in our congregation that should not have an impact on my life. And it's learning how to go, okay, all that can happen. It's terrible, but that's not going to change who I am or the situation. And kind of like what Ben said, I'm not going to volunteer myself into that situation either. And that's, you talk about hypocritical, that's probably all three of us, our families are going, hey, you need to say no a little bit more.
Right.
But I think as ministers, that's kind of,
It's tough. It's a
one
tough
of our
thing
faults. But the more we involve ourselves in everybody else's junk, like it does weigh you down. And if you're not at your best, how can you ever be prepared to help somebody when you jump into their mess? And so I just love the idea of going, I am significant because of what Jesus did. But in the big scheme of things, I am very insignificant as well. And a very small piece of what's going on in the world. And I'm kind of one of those people, Travis, that whenever I cut the news on, it's more for humor than it is for information, because, and maybe ignorance is bliss. I'm not the smartest person in the world, and not understanding or trying to understand some of those things has allowed me to enjoy things a little bit more, because I've got some close friends that have really put their mind into some things of the world intellectually and have become very miserable to be around at times,
Well, and it comes back to, what do I control versus what do I influence? And I don't have much control over what's happening in DC. Yeah, I can vote, I can do some of those things, but ultimately I don't have a whole lot of control about it. And I have to remind myself right now that I have no control over what the Braves are doing. I really want them to win the World Series. I don't know what it's going to be by the time this airs, but every night in Alabama games, I sit there and my heart rate goes up and I get frustrated, and I have to sit back and go, I don't have any control over this game. So whatever happens here is completely out of my control. There's a bunch of teenage boys that are deciding my happiness on a Saturday night. And the reality is, I don't control any of that stuff. I don't control the people around me, but I can influence them.
Family devotional time, fulfilling, organized, fun. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates. Moses' words in Deuteronomy 6:4-8 to the children of Israel in the speech that closed out not only his ministry, but also his life, can be overwhelming at times and make us as parents feel like we could be doing more to disciple our children. In the fast-paced life that we live, we're usually just happy if everyone makes it out the door with their shoes on the correct feet. Planning and executing a family devotional time can seem out of reach. We're here to help. The Helping Healing Humor podcast has a tool to help you plan, organize, and execute a fulfilling and fun family devotional time for every member of your family, from toddler to teen. As a member of the Ben and Travis Patreon community, you will have access to tons of content at a small price that will help you grow your spiritual life, disciple your family, or even lead a small group Bible study. Patreon membership fees will help our podcast continue to be better and support the cost of creating and publishing the content that our Helping Healing Humor community has enjoyed. Go to www.patreon.com/Ben and Travis to sign up. Hit the link in the show notes for this month's special offer.
All right, so fun question out the gate. Halloween, we just passed it up. You can tell us what you're dressing up as if you want to. If you could pick any Halloween candy, Mike Leach got asked this the other day. I tend to agree with him on the candy corn.
It was a beautiful answer.
I was hoping, going to ask if we needed the Mike Leach answer. Do you want the long answer? But
yeah. So we'll go with you, Ben. Top of the page, brother. Ben Hayes, the Ben and Travis podcast.
This is too hard for me because I really do. I want to give a Mike Leach answer. There's so many different things that I could talk about. Probably if we're talking about candy bars, if you're going to give me a candy bar, I want a Payday. Paydays are the where it's at with a candy bar. But I'm a fan of almost any of the sour type candies or hard candies. So Gobstoppers, Sweet Tarts, sprees. Those are probably among my favorites. So if those are considered Halloween candies, I mean, I know that they come in the Halloween sizes. So.
Yeah. So Hayes Clan, if you're listening to this, those are the ones you want to hide out of your bag first.
That's exactly
the one
right.
Ben's going to be checking for the poison or the needles or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. Let me
Pulling
check
those
this
out.
one right here. All right, Will, what you got, bro?
Well, here's I don't know if you're going to see. We
Oh
are
yeah.
on the video. We are Woody, Jesse, and little Bo Peep.
That is amazing.
Amy,
It is
my
fantastic.
3-year-old daughter, the other night tucked her in and she said, "Good night, Woody. I love you." And so, like, our names have even switched at the house. So
She's little Bo Pete. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. Well, she calls herself little old Pete. And we've got a Pete at church that we
Yes.
we have joked with a lot. So Halloween is like taking on some. She has gone full-fledged. We are calling each other by our costumes, not mom and dad anymore. But for me, this is easy. Give me a bag of Reese cups, and they will be gone in a heartbeat. And it's just
judging from all the different wrappers in your office, you're not real picky about it.
no. Like now,
there's Milky Ways in your office.
If you're going chocolate, it's Milky. So here's my order. If we're going like just chocolate, because I like all the sour stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going the little fun size, we're going Milky Way's third, Three Musketeers is second, and then Reese Cups is first. So
sweet.
It's a good lineup.
That'd be
Well,
my
I'm going to
order.
agree with both of you on like the payday has all of a sudden out of nowhere made a comeback for me. Like
That must be like when you hit 40, because I'm not at payday.
maybe I don't know. I
Always
don't
like
know if I think it's just the peanuts aren't that bad for you, and I'm like, oh, that's better than a Snickers.
That's exactly.
And it's got protein, so it packs a punch. And for some reason, if I'm traveling somewhere, if you see me in a gas station and you just want to do Travis a solid, just buy me one of those king size paydays, and man, I can go on that. But yeah, if I've got my choices, Will, I mean Reese Cup, I mean
It's hard to pass up.
And have y'all seen the guy on TikTok that did like he ranked all the Reese Cup like sizes and which one has the best peanut butter to chocolate ratio? I mean, like he went all in.
I don't like the little cup. Like the Louis. Like
no, that's just enough to make you mad.
The regular cup is.
I want the regular size.
Perfect.
Our Barner, Blake, was at Trunk or Treat, stopped by my vehicle, and he said, "Give me the candy I want." Just Reese Cups. It's just every male at the church Trunk or Treats. That's what they're there for.
I can totally get on that train. Also,
Reese
shout out to Blake for being the spiritual referee for Halloween. Ready to thrive in your ministry work? Heritage Christian University has just released their upcoming spring semester course offerings. Courses such as History of the Bible with Wayne Kilpatrick, Marriage and Family Counseling with Jeffrey Brothers, or Acts with Justin Guin. To see all the classes available, visit www.hcu.edu or email media@hcu.edu for more information. Nearly all of these classes were created to be taken remotely, so no matter your schedule or location, you can be a part of learning more about the Bible this year. The deadline to apply is December 1st, so don't wait. Apply today. Thanks for being with us for this episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast. Be sure to download our free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living, at benandtravis.com and receive all of our Helping Healing and Humor extra content directly in your inbox. Until next time, look for us at the same Ben and Travis time, same Ben and Travis channel.